What's going on? Good afternoon. We're doing a little Sunday fun day. A couple drafts. The puppy got launched. Sorry, puppy. The poodle. The poodle one got launched. So probably last year I think there was three, maybe four poodles. Good structure. Let's pull it up and just take a peek at it. So we're gonna rip a couple of these. Not gonna chat for too long. We're just gonna jump into some drafts and get rolling on this. So pull it up. Poodle one, 20 max entry, 40K to first. That's pretty juicy for $140 to max enter this thing. I'll be max entering this for sure. Probably all the poodles. I think I had pretty good luck. I think I made the finals in 2 of the 3 poodles last year. Didn't get, I didn't have the CD Lamb, Amon-Ra stack. So obviously didn't win, didn't place very high, but made the finals anyways. So 2 of 12, 1 of 6, 1 of 5, 310 seat final. That's pretty juicy. Like I said, 40K up top, 20K for second. Top 4 are making 5 figures. So pretty good little tournament. I like it. A little less. I was talking last stream, last episode on Thursday there about Best Ball Mania 5 and how important week 17 is for that structure. It's less important here with 1 of 6, 1 of 5 to get to that final. I guess you could say it's just because at the end of the day, you do want to finish, as high as possible. But it's less important to just sell out for week 17, in my opinion, in this structure. Whereas in Best Ball Mania, to me, that's really all that matters is week 17. And I talked about it, on Thursday. We could talk about it more if you want. But drop a like if you're just jumping in. If you want to jump in the draft, let's go. This episode of Off the Schneid is brought to you by the Sound of Summer, which is... There we go. So let's get rolling. Let's jump into this poodle. $7. If you're in the chat, waiting on 8. Should fill pretty quick, I'd imagine. I think these are going to be, I think this whole tournament will fill, what are we, almost halfway? 40% filled already in a day, 2 days. This will probably fill certainly by Wednesday, but I could see this being full Tuesday afternoon, something like that. So I'm 4 drafts in, I believe, four poodles in of my 20. So we'll rip a few here and then try to get closer to that 20 max. Like I said, I'll definitely be maxing this out. So for the final, the 310 seat final, you're making $300. So you're more than doubling your money if you max enter this tournament, which again, I will be doing, and probably for all the poodles, I will be max entering. So yeah, it's a good structure. I actually really, really enjoy these 20 max. Smaller buy-in. The $7 buy-in's pretty sweet. I do like the single entry, the Greyhound that was released, $35. That's a perfect structure. I like that a lot. Let's see if we got anybody here. We drew the four hole. C Money Mitts. I don't know. I'm not sure. Eagles 1020. Not James Brimacombe Eagles, but good mix of badges, headbands, goat horns, and then badge lists. So we'll see. It should be an interesting one. 4 seed or 4 hole. Sorry, I might mix in some Justin Jefferson. I need some more of Justin Jefferson in Best Ball Mania. That's for sure. As you can see, my percentages here. Spike Week overlay. Shout out to the Spike Week guys. Fantastic tool they have. Fantastic site. Eric Beinfor, Rob Coakley. They do a lot of good stuff on their YouTube channel and again on their website as well. So shout out to those guys. But I don't know if I'll go Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. We'll see if this how it kind of shakes out. CeeDee Lamb at the top. I haven't gotten the 4 hole in a little while, so I'm certainly rusty on this pick, but it should be, I'm assuming, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra maybe. I mean, look behind me. Probably going to go Jamar Chase just because it's my guy. And I like the matchup in week 17 against Denver. Cleveland is a reasonable matchup. It's at home at least. And then Tennessee, that's a fairly juicy matchup against their former offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan. Bucky 87 taking his time here. Auto drafts Tyreek Hill. So maybe I will just take Justin Jefferson here. I can't see myself getting too many shares of realistically anyone in this first round. You only get 20 drafts, right? In just this structure, in the Poodle 20 max structure, you're not going to get a crazy amount of exposure to anybody in the first 2-3 rounds. So I'm gonna even it out a little bit, get some Justin Jefferson. If I can get two shares of Justin Jefferson, I'll be happy in this structure. That's 10%. I would love a little more, maybe 3. If I get 3 of my 20 shares of almost each, obviously that the math doesn't add up on that. I understand, but 2 to 3 shares of each first round pick. Obviously, there will be, like I said, the math doesn't math there. So there's clearly going to have to be a preference at the top, maybe CeeDee Lamb instead of CMC, something like that. But we'll figure it out as we go. But moving along, no one's out of line yet. There's nothing I hate more than seeing the canceled rooms that just piss everybody off. It doesn't even make sense. You're just wasting time because they're going to get canceled. So I don't understand why people jump in there and just do some stupid stuff and draft guys that don't get picked. It's just so obvious that there's an issue there. Hopefully they can start catching it in real time. That's what I would like to see, is catch it in real time. Just exit the draft, cancel the draft. But I mean, realistically, when it happens to me, I just fire on the old airplane mode, go on autopilot and leave, go do another draft, go do anything else besides sit there and watch this, nonsense unfold in front of me. Drake London, Marvin Harrison at the turn. I think you're going to see people start to, at least I'm going to, a little bit, especially in Best Ball Mania. And if I max enter like the Puppy 2, 150 entries, that sort of a thing, you're going to have to start to get a little bit creative towards the back end of the draft and get a little bit unique. Not necessarily right now. You should be okay. I mean, ADPs at the top, in my opinion, are going to be right around where they're at now without an injury. Obviously, if one of these players gets hurt, one of the top 3 rounds, if someone gets hurt, they fall right out. I get it. But they should stay relatively kind of stagnant in where they're at. They're kind of leveled out unless something crazy happens again, like an injury. But other than that, I think the top 3 rounds are going to stay fairly consistent. So you're going to have to start to get unique again as we get closer to the actual season, August drafting, late August, early September, right at the end of the season. You're going to want to get unique. You're definitely going to want to get unique, especially when the ADPs are they're settled. They are what they are. They're not going to move. You're going to have to dip. And one thing that I've thought of maybe is go ahead and do Devontae Adams and Chris Olave at the turn. You're going to see me do that at some point. They play each other week 17. It's a good matchup. You can just game stack those 2 players and then, keep it moving with some other positions and some other players. But that's something I might do just to get unique at the back end of the first round. So that's just a little nugget of something I'm thinking about doing that I don't think people would do. I mean, what's the huge difference between Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, and Marvin Harrison, and Drake London for that matter? Is there a massive difference between those 4 players? Personally, I don't think so. So to each their own. Maybe you're on board with that. Maybe you hate the idea, but that's something I'm thinking about doing. Again, especially as it gets closer to the season. So might go with Saquon Barkley here, but I typically take a lot of Barkley at the back end of drafts, and then you can bring in Dak and Jake Ferguson, stuff like that. And there goes Barkley anyways. Love me some Debo. I love me some Debo. He's catching some steam right now, which I mean, I have a lot of exposure already, so I'm okay, but he's definitely getting steamed up a little bit. Again, it's fine, but I want to keep him I want to keep his ADP behind Brandon Ayuk. I'm taking Debo ahead of Brandon Ayuk for sure. I just think look at their point totals last year. They're basically the same as far as total points, and that's really all that matters. Yes, it's a little more convoluted than that, but their total points were the same. And Debo Samuel missed some games last year, and a lot of people are talking about it. I was watching Pat on Fantasy Dog Pound the other day. He was saying it too with Nez. Fully agree. I haven't said it publicly yet, but that's 100% what I agree with, that Debo Samuel is the running back 2 on this team. Anytime Christian McCaffrey is not on the field, Debo Samuel's running totals get a bump. Obviously, when he had that massive year, 300 total points, he was wide receiver 1. Christian McCaffrey wasn't on this team. I get it. He's still going to have a role, even with a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey on the ground. If something should happen to a 28-year-old, I think, Christian McCaffrey, then Debo Samuel gets a huge bump on the ground. So I'm drafting a ton of Debo personally, and I'm going to keep drafting him all the way up. So we'll see. I could see those ADPs flip a little bit between Ayuk and Debo, but I'm going to be taking Devon Achane here. We're going to talk about Devon Achane in a second here. Excuse me. I'm taking Achane. I got the San Francisco correlation week 16, Cleveland in there as well. Week 17, but I don't entirely. I do understand why people are pulling back on the Devon Achane, ADP or drafting, and why he's falling. I get it, but I don't agree with it whatsoever. So I'm drafting Devon Achane. I'll take as many shares as I can get in the third round. Why? He has a reasonable schedule. I don't mind his schedule against, Houston, San Francisco, Cleveland. That's not exactly the reason why I'm after him. The reason why I'm drafting Devon Achane is because we've seen him as a rookie. I've said this before on this show. We've seen him put up 40, 50, 30, 40, 50 point totals in a week, right? Those are week winning totals. That's what's going to win you, $1.5 million, $40,000 in this case, right? Those totals are what's going to matter. So especially in a cold Cleveland, where Tua might be dumping off the ball, you hand it off a bunch. And we're just saying, people are just kind of saying that Raheem Mostert's going to stay healthy all year, essentially is what his ADP is saying. What is he at? Like, I want to say like 80 something. Wow, 96K. I thought he was actually higher than that. But still, you're saying that he's staying healthy and he's going to do something similar to what he did last year. I'm not ready to just, give Raheem Mostert a clean bill of health over here. And beyond that, even with what he did, Devon Achane was still very, successful and valuable, especially in best ball, right? This is the kind of platform or the structure where you want to draft the shit out of Devon Achane. At least I do. So I get it in redraft, and that's where like these other biases come in, these redraft biases, these dynasty biases that come into best ball where they do not belong. Honestly, they don't. Best ball and redraft are kissing cousins sort of a thing, but they're not the same. They're very, very similar. They're close. There's a lot of similarities there, but they're absolutely not the same thing. So in a vacuum, in a best ball vacuum, Devon Achane is a fantastic pick, in my opinion. And I'm going to keep drafting the shit out of him. Like I said, if I can keep getting him in the third round, if he drops towards the end of the third round, into the fourth round, maybe, you bet your ass I'm going to be drafting a ton of Devon Achane. And I understand the rationale there for why people are letting him drop or not drafting him, whatever it is. I just don't agree with it whatsoever. So that's my take on Devon Achane, and I'll keep drafting him, as my RB1, not necessarily looking at him as like a hero RB build where like, Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Saquon to an extent, even JT to an extent. I'm not looking at him in the same vein as those running backs, but he's, I'm getting him as my RB1 in the third, potentially end of third round or late for third round sort of a thing. So it's, I'm not calling him like a hero RB kind of a running back, but he's a quality RB1, when you're drafting 6. You could get away with 5, especially because if you're taking 2 first round wide receivers, or sorry, a first and second round wide receiver, and you're getting ahead of the wide receiver room there. I just think he's a fantastic pick. I understand it. I understand people's, hesitation. I just don't agree with it. That's where I'm at, and I'll keep drafting him. I'll keep scooping that value. I perceive it as value, so I'm going to keep taking him. But what are we going to do here? What are we going to do? Green Bay could use some Seattle eventually. Cleveland, Detroit would be great. I'm not a big drafter of Amari Cooper, as you can see. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I know he's a good wide receiver. I know he's a good player. I've just never liked Amari Cooper as a player. Don't ask me why. I just haven't. I really don't completely understand why I hate him so much. Shouldn't say hate. I don't hate him, but you know what I mean. I just don't draft him a lot. Give me some George Pickens at ADP. He seems to be creeping up the board and going a little earlier than I'm particularly comfortable taking George Pickens. But I'm happy at ADP, and I'd like to increase my exposure. So give me a little George Pickens there, and then I could always bring it back with my next pick here, 52, with Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, if I want to reach a little bit, and then, or, Rashee Rice later in the draft, I could bring him in for the correlation. Can also go Patrick Mahomes, and then kind of cross my fingers 69 if Worthy could drop to 69, which is exceptionally unlikely. 6 picks at past ADP. 6 picks isn't crazy if we're talking about a tight end or a running back, potentially a quarterback, but wide receivers really just don't fall that far. I might push it and try it anyways. Or I could go Josh Jacobs here. Obviously, he gives me a little correlation. Could go Pacheco as well. I think I obviously haven't drafted him at all. I really need some exposure to Isaiah Pacheco. I'm just a little concerned about his potential health. That may be an issue. I don't know. We'll see. He runs super duper hard, and that just always has me concerned. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes here because I can bring in Marshawn Lloyd, and I'd rather do that than Josh Jacobs. I'm not a huge Josh Jacobs drafter. As you can see by my exposure there, not a huge Josh Jacobs kind of believer and drafter this year. If I get him past ADP, which this is about a half round past ADP, sure, I'll take some swings. But it's got to make sense. And it does in this build with Justin Jefferson. I get it, but I just can't pull the trigger on him very often. But fingers crossed that for some reason Xavier Worthy falls to 69 and I can get him, and I'll double tap. I'll easy double tap Kansas City wide receivers if that's the case. Either way, I'm taking Rashee Rice at 76 here. Almost certainly a little bit ahead of ADP, but I obviously have to get a pass catcher for Patrick Mahomes. And then I got that week 17 stack with George Pickens, little mini stack. Again, I talked, before we started this draft here, that it's not as exceptionally necessary, like I talked about on Thursday for the week 17 correlation, where in my opinion, it just absolutely has to happen. You have to be correlated for week 17. You got to go all in and go all out on week 17, in my opinion, in that tournament. In this tournament, in the Poodle, I don't think it's as necessary. And, a single stack with the single bring back, I think is completely fine. Obviously, a lot of my Best Ball Mania teams will be, triple stack with a double bring back, something like that. On the Thursday draft, I think I believe I did Buffalo triple stack or even 4. I think I drafted a quad stack Buffalo and then double bring back Jets. So Stuff like that is what I'm doing in Best Ball Mania, where I'm just completely selling out for week 17. But also, I'm betting on Buffalo. It's not like I'm betting on the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So you got to kind of make it make sense as well. But here I can go single stack, potentially double stack it for some reason. Somehow Xavier Worthy falls to 69. That'd be great. But if not, then I'll have single stack Rashee Rice, George Pickens bring back. I'll probably look at David Njoku as my bring back to Devon Achane, which I have a just stupid amount of, to be honest with you. So I'd like to bring in someone else, maybe Jerry Jeudy, even Elijah Moore, potentially something like that to change up my bring back in that game stack for week 17, Miami, Cleveland. And then, Green Bay's pass catchers are all over the place. Marshawn Lloyd is there as well. And then Debo with potentially Jameson Williams. Maybe I could bring in David Montgomery, something like that. There's tons of options here. But I'm really, really just hoping for some reason. Where is the Kelsey drafter? Right there. So for some reason, Xavier Worthy falls to me. I'll be licking my chops. Just like super, super happy about that one, but we'll see. Also, another guy that I haven't been drafting enough, and I'm going to start mixing him in the 18th round. Much of what I was talking about a second ago with Isaiah Pacheco is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. As much as we, love to hate CEH, he's still the backup there. He still has a role, even with Isaiah Pacheco completely healthy, playing every game. CEH still has a role. So that might be where I go with this one because Xavier Worthy just went. So that hurts. I could bring in George Pickens and then open the door for a San Francisco stack, which I don't mind at all. And I might go that route. I'm going to go that route. Is this don't auto draft on me? Oh no, it auto drafted. Sometimes this glitches. That's frustrating. What's going on here? I'm gonna have to refresh this feed here. This is glitching out. Can't have that. We cannot have that. Oh God. Is this a disaster waiting to happen? Okay. Jeez. Well, that sucks. I really would have rathered George Pickens on this team, but at least Kenny Walker is correlated with Minnesota, Chicago, and Green Bay, for another game stack with Minnesota, Seattle play Green Bay in the playoffs. That's good, but man, that's a bit of a disaster. That's kind of frustrating. A little glitch. It happens. It does happen sometimes on this spike week tool, but we're back. We'll go Rashee Rice to match up with Patrick Mahomes. Kind of have to. Like I said, I'll probably bring in CEH in this build. Yeah, it could have been worse. At least it's Kenny Walker, and he, it's a need, I suppose. I can do a bring back with Green Bay and Chicago. That's another thing about these 2-3 teams that I need to personally mix in a bunch more. Seattle, Minnesota, and Green Bay and Chicago, they all play each other. And there's crazy amounts of correlation there. So you could just game stack the shit out of that, those 4 teams, just mix them all together, get your bringbacks, get your stacks, mix them all together. And then, that's not a bad option either. Those are some pretty good games, in my opinion. And they might be a little underrated too. So, yeah, if you look at the correlation here, Green Bay, Seattle, Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, Minnesota, Chicago, Seattle, Minnesota, Seattle, right? It's pretty interesting. It's pretty juicy. I definitely got to mix in a little more of that. But Cleveland's definitely on the menu for this build, for this team. Jameson Williams, probably not as important anymore with missing out on George Kittle. Jeez. But I could still bring in Ricky Pearsall if I want to get Brock Purdy. We'll see. This is not exactly the way I wanted to go with Kenny Walker there. Definitely wanted George Kittle, Rashee Rice, and then I could have brought in Brock Purdy. It is what it is. It is what it is. Waller retirement news finally. You betcha. Flatulently fantasy, not fraudulently fantasy, fart fantasy. News finally came in. Waller finally hung it up. In my opinion, Waller retired in Vegas, his second last year in Vegas. He was checked out. Waller's been fully checked out. I said it on this show years ago. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. I said it on this show. Waller is checked out. He doesn't want to play football anymore. He ended up playing for 2 more years. Got another contract, got traded, whatever. But Waller, he was checked out for all intents and purposes. And then as far as a preference, big Daniel Bellinger guy right here. Love me some Daniel Bellinger. I have him a little bit. Let's see if I can quickly show some exposure. Let's see pre best ball or pre-draft. 1.7%, 3 times. A little bit of exposure, a little something. And then let's see so far this year, 62 total drafts. You see him there, 50 BBMs. 3.2%. So a couple times. I'm a big Daniel Bellinger guy. I liked him a lot as a rookie. I liked his profile. I like what he can do everything as an NFL tight end. He can do everything you need him to do. So I'm a big fan of Daniel Bellinger. Theo Johnson from also Canadian. So you think I should be a homer and like him? I'm not a big fan of Theo Johnson from what I saw on tape. What's his ADP? Yeah, he's getting drafted sometimes. I'm going to make this pick here, and then we'll chat some more about the Giants tight end room. Don't need Seattle. Probably David Njoku here, just because I missed out on Kittle, and that hurt. Got the KC bring back, the Miami bring back. Definitely not going running back. It's got to be David Njoku. But yeah, I liked Daniel Bellinger's profile. I liked everything that he could do in college. I liked him as a rookie. He came in, played well as a rookie. Then they brought in Darren Waller, which, stunted his growth, stagnated him a little bit, which kind of pissed me off because I liked him a lot last year. I was drafting him a ton. And then the Waller trade obviously happens. You completely stop drafting Bellinger. But now, as you can see, as I just showed you, I'm mixing him in a little bit. And I will continue to. I'll probably end up with 3, 4, 5%, nothing crazy, but I'm definitely going to have me some Bellinger. If you look at his profile, even with, so what do we got? 4 and 3%. So even with Waller there, 28 targets, 25 catches. So he's reliable, right? He's not a big play guy. He's not going to go out and extend the field and, make 40-yard touchdowns happen. It's just not in his game, but he can be very, 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 very much exactly what Dalton Schultz is, in my opinion, as a tight end. So I'm going to mix him in a little bit, but I'm absolutely team Bellinger in this conversation for the Giants tight ends. No question. And it's really not close for me. Might go Romeo Doubs here. Probably the way to go, considering I got to get a Green Bay player. And yeah, it just makes sense. I need a wide receiver. No tight ends are really on the radar right now. Caleb would be if I had a bear. And maybe I'll bring in a running back, a Bear running back later. Could still go Purdy, but I'm going to bring in Romeo Dobbs here and then see how this kind of shakes out. Now it kind of puts me in a bit of a influx, situation with my QB2. If Brock Purdy falls to me, I'll take him, and then I'll just bring in hopefully Ricky Pearsall. And I think Jameson Williams is gone. So that's fine. Oh, he went way early. I don't know, maybe not crazy. 83. Yeah, that's fair. The Gibbs drafter and Laporta. So he's obviously, he needs a San Francisco 49er. Probably going to focus in on Ricky Pearsall, I'd imagine, but either way. So yeah, there's my take on the Giants tight end situation. It's got to be Daniel Bellinger for me. Theo Johnson, in my opinion, Theo Johnson is Darnell Washington for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. They're very, very similar, in my opinion. And I didn't love the tape, and I didn't want anything to do with Darnell Washington, and I still don't. So same thing with Theo Johnson. I think he's going to be a fantastic blocking tight end, a very, very, very good blocking tight end. But I just don't think that he has the receiving chops. And I certainly wouldn't put his receiving chops above or even equal to Daniel Bellinger personally. So that's how I'm looking at it. But it is good to just rip that Band-Aid off and have the clarity now without the, black cloud of Darren Waller hanging over this team and this, receiving core and this tight end room. They should have just released him, to be honest with you. But I think they probably wanted him to retire. Maybe there's some language in the contract where if he retires, I don't know. But it seemed like they didn't really care what he did, to be honest. Just do whatever you want. We don't care. We're moving on without you. Realistically, the guys that are here, the guys that are at camp, they're the ones getting the lion's share of the reps. And yeah, make your decision whenever you want. I suppose we just don't care. That's kind of how I saw it, but either way. Some interesting, obviously had to go Jared Goff there, but only 3 wide receivers. Oh no, 4 now. 2, 3, 4, 1. That's all right. It's a little on the fragile side, I suppose, at wide receiver, but I don't mind that. Where do I want to go? Yeah, Brock Purdy's still there. I'll take him. Rashid Shaheed I could bring in. I guess I could bring in Tua. I don't have much of him. So there goes Purdy. Jerry Jeudy. Could go that route. Could go Jerry Jeudy, then bring in Deshaun Watson. That makes tons of sense. And that's probably what I'll do, given that I kind of got forced into taking Kenny Walker there with a little glitch. So I'm okay at running back for now. And then this whole wave of, whatever tier running backs you want to call them. But I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy, and then I'm definitely going to be bringing in Deshaun Watson to complete this this Green Bay stack with the Devon Achane single bring back. So I like that. And then I could bring in Clyde Edwards-Helaire late. So as I always say on this channel, figure out your structure, because roster construction to me still is absolutely paramount. It means absolutely everything. Yes, week 17, but roster construction is the most important thing when you're drafting. So what do I want to do? If I get Deshaun Watson, I'm good at two quarterbacks, in my opinion. I do need I would need another quality tight end in order for me to stop at 2. And that's probably going to be Dalton Schultz right here if he's still there. Week 15, week 16 correlation against Kansas City with my stack, right? Then I can be done at 2 tight ends. I can be done at 2 quarterbacks. And then I can just start drafting or finish out my wide receiver and running back rooms, realistically, just running back, because I'm at 6, quality wide receivers, very quality wide receivers. So I know my structure if I can get Dalton Schultz here. Then I know what my structure is going to be. As long as somebody doesn't snipe me on Deshaun Watson for God knows why. But it happens. That kind of stuff happens all the time. But yeah, we're going to go Dalton Schultz. We're going to go Dalton Schultz, complete this room. Could have waited maybe a TJ Hawkinson, but as you can see, I haven't drafted him a single time. It's tough for me to kind of stomach that. So let's go Dalton Schultz. Done at tight end. So long as I get Deshaun Watson, I'll be done at quarterback. And then we're kind of laughing. So 165 is where I need to get Watson. Do I reach? What round are we? Round 13. The later it goes, the more okay I am with reaching past 12 picks. The one round, drop, and then that is a full round, 163, and I'm getting at 148. I mean, it's a little more than a round. But the later in the draft, the less important it is to me. But that's one of my, it's not a hard, firm rule every single time, but it's a pretty firm rule where I don't reach more than 12 picks ahead of ADP. There's lots of data out there that suggests that is not very optimal whatsoever. And I believe in that. That's why I draft with ADP. I'll get my exposure, get my stacks, get my bringbacks, whatever. But I think that ADP value is what makes the most sense when you're drafting. But I mean, that's just me. Again, I could be completely wrong. If you disagree, that's completely fine. That's just one of my kind of rules. But the later it gets in the draft, the less important that is. At some point, it's get your guys, get your stacks, get your bringbacks, all that kind of stuff. At some point, it gets to that spot where you just take who you need or want or whatever. Get your guys season sort of a thing, right? So that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm absolutely going to be taking a running back with the first pick there with 141. So who do I want? Probably not Jerome Ford, obviously, for obvious reasons. Zach Charbonnet, no, for obvious reasons. I already have Kenny Walker. If I need him to stay healthy, that's what makes sense. Could go with Marshawn Lloyd. Could go with Ty Chandler. Jalen Wright doesn't make tons of sense. Yeah, depends on the room. Putt Daddy, what's up, man? Reaching obviously depends on the room as well, but I do find myself reaching a few times for my QB stack. Yeah, and sometimes it's not the worst idea to push it either. So I agree with this, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now with Deshaun Watson. I'm going to take him ahead of ADP more than a full round, which I'm not always comfortable with, but it is what it is. That's what I'm going to do. So I definitely agree with it when you're completing your stacks, especially if you already have the bring back in place, you got the double stack in place, you might as well complete it and make sure you get your guys and make sure you get your stack. But sometimes it's okay to push it with certain guys. Like who just went there? Is T-Law still there? Yeah. So T-Law is almost 20 picks past ADP right now. That happens a lot. Even Joe Burrow, you see fall a fair amount. Brock Purdy, you see fall a fair amount, even Dak sometimes, but definitely T-Law is the poster child for that. So sometimes when it's some of those guys, I don't mind pushing it. And then it is what it is. If I don't get them, I don't get them. And it's not, really the end of the world. Obviously I'd rather get my guys, I'd rather get my stack, but it's not the end of the world if I miss out on some of those builds, especially if you're volume drafting like I am. Then I can afford to push it, take some shots, get some better players in some earlier rounds, you know what I mean? And get a little bit unique sometimes too. I'll probably take Kendre Miller here. I don't have enough. Definitely don't have enough exposure to him, so definitely makes sense in this build. I like that. Easy click. Correlates with Green Bay. Let's do it. And then I'm going to reach for Watson, like I said. Complete the stack. 2 more wide receivers, 3 more running backs, including CEH, who's obviously on my menu, on my radar for this, Kansas City stack. And that just makes sense. Like sometimes drafting becomes easy for the most part, as long as everything falls in place. So yeah, but hit that like button while you're here. We're going to do another draft after this for sure. At least one more. Maybe I'll do a few. We'll see if there's an appetite for it, but I'll definitely do one more for sure. Trying to get enough, or trying to max and get these poodles taken care of. I'll definitely be doing the 20 max on this. Easy decision on that one for me. It's great structure, good tournament. And like I said earlier, I think I finaled 2 of the 3 puppies last year, or sorry, poodles. 2 of the 3 poodles last year, I think I finaled. So good vibes with the poodles. But hurry up and click. Let's get Deshaun Watson out of the way. And then we're going to just mix in a little bit of correlation here and there for some tiebreakers. For me, when talking about this correlation stuff, I talk about it a lot. Obviously, most streamers, most people do. It just makes tons of sense. Actually, Michael Leone, is it Michael Leone? Yeah, Leone. Anyways, he put out a tweet today about how important Week 17 stacking is. And I agree. I've been talking about it nonstop. So I 100% agree. But I think it's less important with running backs. If you can just find good matchups or just get quality players that you think are going to have a role, forget correlation a lot of times. Like I'll be taking Ray Davis if he's there. Antonio Gibson in this build is fine. Kamani Vidal. I have no correlation with any of these running backs right here, but I would take any one of them in this build. Perfectly fine. Over even a guy like Khalil Herbert, who, is double correlated in the playoffs. Roshan Johnson, same thing. Dameon Pierce, same thing, but I do have Dalton Schultz. But either way, what I'm saying is I'm less likely and less inclined to seek out correlation at the running back position. I'm much more inclined to take a look at my wide receivers and get some bringbacks in there. So definitely, Pittsburgh, I probably would look at maybe Roman Wilson, Bateman. That's a great click right there. Double correlated in the playoffs. That's certainly someone I'd be looking to draft. I might just throw him in my queue. You know what I mean? With those tiebreakers, I like Quentin Johnston, as you could see by my exposure. I'm a fan of him this year. I'm drafting him. Range of outcomes are pretty wide, and I'll roll the dice on that in the 13th, 14th round. I'll roll the dice on that range of outcomes. But again, with this build, the tiebreaker goes to Rashad Bateman, and even though their ADPs are 20 picks apart realistically, I would still probably go Rashad Bateman over Quentin Johnston in this exact build because of correlation. You know what I mean? So that's a little nugget on something I look at as well. And that's something I love about this Spike Week tool is it shows me my correlation. It's all right there. I used to have a spreadsheet that I did myself, but this is obviously a ton better, a ton more convenient, if you will. So yeah, that's another little nugget that I look at with between, correlating wide receivers, running backs, where it's important, where it may not be. I personally look at running backs more as advance rate pieces. And then my, playoff smashes, the guys that are going to get me to the finals, win me X amount of dollars, hopefully bink a big tournament. Those, in my opinion, are typically going to be your wide receivers. So, and then if you're mixing in running backs, like I said, Devon Achane, who can throw up a 40-point week any week he's on the field, you don't really need correlation there, right? You just need him to be the guy on that offense, which we've seen happen multiple times already as a rookie. This is his second year. Supposedly he's bulked up, put on some muscle. You know what I mean? I'm all in on, not all in, but I'm definitely drafting a lot of Devon Achane personally. So like I said, we know our structure, 2-6-8-2. We got our 2 quarterbacks, got our 2 tight ends. So we're done there. Only drafting running backs and wide receivers to finish this out. Hope I get Rashad Bateman because it makes tons of sense, as you can see. And then I'd like to avoid Chuba Hubbard if I could, because I have just so much exposure to him, because he's just an easy click. In my opinion, he's an easy click as your running back 4, running back 5. I just can't not click him in the 15th round, 16th round, whatever it is. I just can't not. Just makes too much sense to me. He's going to have a role to start the year. That's for sure. That we can put to, take to the bank. And then we don't know what Jonathan Brooks is. 80 something, 86th overall, whatever he's going right now. I'm not just anointing Jonathan Brooks as, the guy in Carolina. Personally, we've seen Chuba Hubbard, have a role multiple seasons. I think his first year he was 800 or 900 yards as well in 2021. He can catch the ball, 39 receptions last year. He's fully capable of being the guy. So we'll see. But I'll definitely go Kamani Vidal here. Don't have a crazy amount of exposure to him. I'd say just enough. But I got to fill out this running back room before it completely falls off a cliff, which is essentially right now. So no real correlation to reach for or seek out. So might as well take a small half-round dip on Kamani Vidal. Get a little more exposure there. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on the differences between running back, wide receiver, correlation, that sort of a thing. But what are we going to do here? Detroit would be nice. Baltimore would be nice. Don't think either of those are going to happen. Cincy would be nice. Don't think that's going to happen unless I want to really reach on, I don't know, Charlie Jones, which I don't. Vegas, Chicago, New England, Denver. New England's an easy click with Javon Baker. Have a lot of that. A lot of Baker, 24 and 26% of Javon Baker. Denver could definitely go. Mims already went, I would imagine. So we're starting to see Marvin Mims get ahead of Troy Franklin, which is where he should be, in my opinion. My exposure to Mims is very high. My exposure to Franklin is there a little bit, but certainly if it's one or the other, I'm taking Marvin Mims personally. But I think we're going to see that shift. I think Marvin Mims will be ahead of Troy Franklin in no time. Certainly, before midsummer, especially if there's some camp news that comes out that's positive. But we'll see. Malachi Corley, one of my highest exposed players. Really no reason for me to take him here. It's Jaleel McLaughlin if he's there. As long as if this guy's auto drafting, which he probably is, he'll be taken. Oh, there we go. So that's an easy click for me. Correlates with Kamani Vidal in week 16. Cincinnati, week 17, Indy. That's a good playoff schedule. Got to go with Jaleel. I think he's going to have a quality role here. Supposedly he's, first one in, last one out kind of a guy. In the building, 5:15, even in the offseason. 5:15 a.m., even in the offseason, in the building, doing work, hitting the treadmill, doing everything right. Sean Payton likes him a lot. He used him a fair amount last year. There is some more competition in there. Even for his role, I think the other running backs, Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, they're not competition for Jaleel McLaughlin. They're not. They play honestly completely different positions. Realistically, completely different positions. So they're not competition for Jaleel McLaughlin's role, in my opinion. Blake Watson, who I really, really like. I really like Blake Watson. I have a fair amount of exposure to him in pre-draft best ball in the big board. And I don't think I've drafted him yet in this because he obviously went undrafted. And he's now, in my opinion, behind Jaleel McLaughlin in this offense. So there is competition there. And I think Blake Watson will 100% be the returner in Denver. And then if there's an injury, we could see Blake Watson have a role. I'm just not comfortable drafting him, now in best ball summer situation. I'm not comfortable drafting Blake Watson just yet. Maybe there'll be an injury or he just, completely shows out in preseason and you kind of just throw your hands up and say, okay, I guess he's that guy. But we'll see. I do think that Jaleel McLaughlin certainly still has a role in this offense. He showed a lot of explosion, 5.4 yards per carry, I believe, 5.4, 5.7, something like that, but over 5 yards per carry. Offensive line hopefully will be the same. Obviously, they lost Lloyd Cushenberry, which kind of hurts, but hopefully they'll be, the same or potentially better. Who did they brought in somebody? But Mike McGlinchey's there. Their bookend tackles with Garrett Bowles is a good situation. And I can't remember, Quinn Miners is there. I can't remember the rest of their offensive line off the top of my head, but it's quality. So we'll see. Plus likely rookie quarterback, or, Jared Stidham. It'll either be Jared Stidham or Bo Nix. And Bo Nix by the end of the year, I fully expect Bo Nix to be starting in these playoff games. So hopefully that leads to a fair amount of dump offs to Jaleel McLaughlin, get him in space, get the ball in his hands, and let him do some work. So we'll see. But I'm drafting Jaleel McLaughlin. Absolutely. Absolutely. The amount of juice that he's shown, I like that. I like that a lot. So rounding it out, 3 more picks. It's going to be 1 running back, which is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 2 wide receivers. Hopefully I can get Javon Baker. That'd be nice. A little bit past ADP. Haven't taken any Demario Douglas in post-draft Best Ball Mania or Best Ball. I guess it would make sense here. Could go Devontae Walker. That makes tons of sense for Baltimore. That would be a great click. And maybe I can get Clyde Edwards-Helaire to fall to 213. So this is kind of what I was talking about earlier about pushing guys. Like his ADP says that I should draft him here at 196. ADP of 205. But ADP of 205, especially in these late rounds, at ADP 205, he does not get drafted every draft. That's for sure. I think it's 180 something where they get drafted every 100% of drafts, sort of a thing. Beyond that, they do not get drafted in every draft. So I should be able to push him, especially with how many running backs are remaining. And guys like Keaton Mitchell could go. Sure, Audric Estime, Eric Gray. Look at my exposure to Eric Gray. He's getting some steam right now. Maybe we'll touch on him after this draft. Dylan Lowby, Trey Sermon is moving up. So if Devontae Walker's there, I'm going to take him to mix in a little bit of correlation and finish out my wide receiver room, and then hope that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is there. If he's not the end of the world. It's really not the end of the world at all. And I would rather have this correlation to Devontae Walker and a rookie, which, I like to mix in a few rookies. And, I've got 2 right now. This will be my 3rd. That just makes too much sense. And then we'll see what happens at running back. Hopefully Clyde Edwards-Helaire is there. I will absolutely be taking him if he is. 17 catches the past 2 seasons. Obviously, I would need an injury for him to really hit, or if he just has, 4 catches, 60-something yards and a touchdown through the air with Patrick Mahomes, and then, gets, call it 40 rushing yards or something like that. That's enough for him to show up in my Week 17 lineup, but that's neither kind of here nor there. But we'll see how the rest of this shakes out. This might be a good time to take Tank Bigsby if I had to. That makes sense for what I'm doing. So I'll put him in the queue. Roshan makes sense, but he'll likely be gone. And I'm just not taking Eric Gray. I have just too much. I have too much. I have a lot. I'm happy with my exposure. We'll see how that shakes out. I'm still going to be drafting Eric Gray because I'm a believer. And like I said, maybe I'll talk about him in a second here after this is over. But I'm going to be drafting him, just not here. Trey Sermon would make some sense. I could go that route. He seems to have won already almost the running back 2 job here. I for some reason they liked what he did last year. The coach speak is that they liked what he did, but look at the stat line. 160 yards on 35 carries. That's really not impressive whatsoever. And Evan Hall can absolutely catch the ball. Knee injury included torn MCL. So he did his ACL and MCL, hey? It was more extensive than first thought. Torn MCL, a root tear of his meniscus. Participated fully. I mean, yeah, Tyler Goodson's there as well. I mean, but for the pass catching back, and either way, there would have to be an injury. So, I mean, Trey Sermon, yeah, if he's the last option that I have here, sure. But I certainly wouldn't be happy about drafting him, if I'm being honest. Blake Watson gets drafted sometimes. I was definitely taking a little Michael Carter in pre-draft best ball. Obviously, with Trey Benson coming in there, he's completely off the radar. Isaiah Spiller's just never going to get there. Yeah. So fingers crossed Clyde Edwards-Helaire makes it to me, which honestly he should. Going off of who's still there, Roschon Johnson's still falling in ADP, which is interesting. It's hard to say what his role will be. I get that. But if we get Khalil Herbert off this team and starting for the Dallas Cowboys, fingers crossed on that, then Roschon will definitely be a quality pick here. This really isn't very good, if I'm being honest with you guys. I got a Georgian Bay. It's a gin smash. Super citrusy. It's too sweet for me. I might have to pull an audible and get a beer, bitter beer, to wash this sucker down. It's really not very good. A little off topic, but it's really sweet. All right. Last pick. If you're in the chat, you want to jump in a draft, we'll be doing another Poodle in about 3 minutes, about 2 minutes maybe. But maybe I'll go grab another ice cold beverage before we kick that off, because I gotta get away from this thing. This thing is no bueno. So there we go. Looks like it's gonna work. There it is. It worked. So got Clyde Edwards-Helaire to complete the stack. That's lovely. My 6 RB. Good times. Looks good. Double stack Mahomes with the bring back. Double stack Deshaun Watson with the bring back. And then they play each other in week 15 as well. So that's cool. Lots of correlation. The more green I see, the happier I am. But yeah, I like this squad. It's a little bit unique. I definitely like it. It's unique to me, that's for sure. But I really like it, actually. It's in a good spot. And with drafting Rashee Rice, as the only time I'm really taking Rashee Rice is if he's my 4th wide receiver. That's pretty much the only time I'm taking him, because he's going to be suspended. He's going to miss some time. But if you can get him as your wide receiver 4, you won't need him until later on in the season, right? So I should be fine with Justin Jefferson, Debo, and Pickens. That should get me through, the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. And maybe he comes back after the bye in week 7, something like that. We'll see what happens with Rashee Rice, but let's go back to the lobby here. I'm going to put it on mute for 2 seconds. I'm going to go get a beer because this gin smash thing is just bothering me. So give me 2 seconds. We'll be back, and I'm going to rip another poodle. All right, wasn't going long. Let's get going. Once again, this episode of Off the Schneid brought to you by the Sound of Summer. Nice. The old mill. Nothing wrong with it in a little old mill. Let's do this. Another poodle. Poodle number 2. I think I'm at 5 now. Yeah, 5 with the one I just drafted. So getting there. I'll be drafting these all day today. So after the stream, if you jump in the streets, you'll probably catch me in there. But if you're in the draft, you want to draft, or in the chat and you want to draft, jump in. Waiting on 5. Waiting on 5. I hope. I don't know. I don't really care where I get, actually. Again, like I was saying before, I just want equal kind of exposure to everyone, or as many players in the first round as I could possibly get. Obviously, you can't have equal exposure. There's only 20 max entries. There's 12 players in the first round, so you can't have 2 or 3. So it is what it is, but you can even it out as best you can. 12 hole with my own bare hands. Interesting. MT 28, Jeremy Football. Don't think I recognize any names in here, but a lot of black badges. I don't remember what you got to do for a black badge. 200 drafts or something like that. 250, maybe it's 500 and 1,000. I can't remember what they are for the badges, or how you get them. I can't remember, but badges don't mean shit either. That's for sure. Doesn't mean you know more. Doesn't mean you know anything. Doesn't mean you draft well. Just means you draft a lot. That's all it means. 500 for the black badge. But Daddy, then what's 1,000 must be? 1,000 for the red badge or something? I really don't know. There's all kinds of different things. Even the dogs that you can get. I think the dash hound that I have, I think it's a deposit minimum. So that's cool that I deposited enough to get it. I can't remember, what everything is. And then there's the headband, but I don't do NBA at all. So maybe I should just to get the headband because it's cool. Kind of like it. The Billy Goat horns is obviously legit. That means you won a gauntlet, I believe, right? So that's a pretty legit addition, or I don't want to call it a badge, but I guess addition to your avatar. The Spartan hat that I have as well means nothing. You just cashed in 5 gauntlets or something like that, which is nothing. So, but it looks cool. I like it. And then the Rudolph Red Nose that glows. I think you cash in 5 or cash once or win or something on a Christmas contest. But yeah, the badges and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean anything. Really means nothing. If I can't get, there goes Puka. So we'll see who's left. But I might do what I just said in the previous show in the first round, or in the previous draft, sorry, in the first round, which is reach a little bit, get unique. Because in this tournament that will be full within a couple days, you do kind of have to get unique right now if you want to have a unique roster, sort of a thing. And I might give it a whirl. I might try it. Why not? It's $7. Nothing crazy, not a big deal. You can try different things, get creative, and I'm going to do it. Because why not? I'm going to go Chris Olave and Devontae Adams. It's a week 17 game stack. It's going to be unique. Why not? Why not? Why not? Let's give it a whirl. see how this works out. This is the kind of stuff that I probably wouldn't do this in a BBM. Maybe once, maybe one of my 150, I would do this. But in puppies, poodles, things like that, a little bit cheaper buy-in, yeah, hell yeah, take a swing at something unique, something different. So, yeah, let's see what happens. Jacksonville, Green Bay, Washington, Atlanta are the other teams I need to kind of look at. Don't need to, but can look at to correlate for the playoffs. And I don't mind that. I do need to up my exposure to Jordan Love. That's for sure. Love, yeah. 4%, 3%. I really need to up my exposure to Jordan Love. It's just weird where all these Packers go. It's a little strange where all the Packers go and then where Jordan Love goes. So, and there's just so many options. There's literally, there's four wide receivers at least. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavion Wicks, sorry. Even Bull Melton's getting drafted sometimes. And then Musgrave right there as well. I'm not drafting Tucker Kraft realistically. If I'm drafting any, Green Bay Packer tight end, it's going to be Luke Musgrave. But then you could also throw in Marshawn Lloyd in there in a Green Bay stack. That's completely fine and completely, viable. So it's just odd where they're going. There's not many like back end or front end of drafts, like, if you're the 12 pick or the 1 pick or whatever, 2 or 11, whatever. If you're the back end or the front end, there's not too many double taps. There's not too many double tap opportunities with Packers. So it's weird. I could see, I think of any team in, best ball or any team's ADPs, whatever you want to say, I think the Green Bay Packers will move the most. We've already seen Josh Jacobs fall a fair amount. I think he started in like the mid 30s, 35, 36, something like that. So we've seen him fall. I believe Jaden Reed has fallen a little bit as well, maybe half round, something like that. And I think even Jordan Love, Dobbs, Wicks has moved all over the place a little bit. He's pretty polarizing on the Twitter machine. So yeah, and they got to settle. Like they're going to settle somewhere. It's just where I'm not entirely sure. So that's an interesting one with the Packers. You got to kind of force it. Honest, that's what I'm getting at. Is you kind of have to force it. If you do draft Justin Jefferson, it does help. It helps you force it to have that game stack with Justin Jefferson and then the Green Bay side, especially being in Minnesota. So we'll see. Maybe I'll force it in this draft. Maybe it'll fall to me. Maybe it'll, be easy. Maybe it'll just happen organically, but we'll see. We'll see. So, yeah. It does open up some things too where, I can a lot of times you take your first pick or first or second pick, right? Like I've done here. And then you try to correlate them, I drafted Chris Olave, so I got to figure out a way to get Derek Carr. Oh, I drafted Devontae Adams, so maybe I should get both Minshew and O'Connell or something like that, and then get, Josh Allen and then those two Vegas Raider quarterbacks, something like that. But in this scenario where I have that game, that can be it. I can just have those two wide receivers as my game stack, and I can move on to, let's say I go Zay Flowers and Tank Dell, or Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson, something like that, right? Where I'm, completely flipping it a little bit and just trying different combinations where it still makes sense. And then I can bring in Dalton Schultz with my, Baltimore stack. I could bring in Bateman late. Devontae Walker. Even Aguilar is kind of viable there. Sam Laporta we're seeing falling. I have tons of exposure, so I'm really not trying to take a crazy amount of Sam Laporta right now. But I could even go, again, just get super unique with this. I could go Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid here. I could go that route. But I think I'm going to go Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson. Let's do that. There. So I like that. I like this build. I like this build so far. Especially when, you could certainly make a case that Chris Olave and Devontae Adams makes my wide receiver room a little bit fragile. You can make that argument, I guess. I don't think I would agree with you, but I could understand making that argument. So adding a Zay Flowers, at ADP, again, you could say these 3 wide receivers is a little fragile. Again, I would disagree with you, but I could understand saying that. So what I would then push back on that is, yeah, but all 3 combined, the combination of all 3, that's very quality in my opinion. So I like that. I like that start. And then we'll see. Like I said, I've got options later on in this draft for Houston bringbacks. It's going to have to be Dalton Schultz. Those wide receivers are all going way too high to be able to try to correlate Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers with a Houston, unless you want to reach super high and take. So what I could have done, and maybe this is a viable option too, that I would try and maybe a puppy or a poodle, a cheaper buy-in. Whereas if you're at the back, you're literally 12th, 1-2 turn, 12, 13, you just go ahead and reach for Nico, grab Nico Collins, and then either Tank Dell, which is a huge reach, or Stephon Diggs, which is still a huge reach. So you go 2 Houston wide receivers at the turn, and then Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson. Not crazy. It's really, I mean, again, I'm not doing that in a Best Ball Mania personally, but in a puppy, in a $5 puppy, if I'm maxing, call it the puppy 2, if I'm maxing the puppy 2, I might give that a whirl. And then have the double bring back Houston with Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson. You never know. Sometimes it's possible for Mark Andrews to fall to 60. It's possible, not likely, but it's possible. And there he goes. So not in this one, but it is possible. Or you bring in Bateman or Devontae Walker late in the draft, and then you have double stack Baltimore with a double bring back in Houston. So I might try that a time or two, especially being in Houston week 17. If that was in Baltimore, it might change things a little bit. Mind you, I'm trying to not think about that whatsoever. Those cold weather games and we can't predict the weather tomorrow, let alone, in December where people are, oh, I'm scared of that. It's a cold weather game. If it's Tua, I get it. If it's Tua in Cleveland, I understand that trepidation and that concern. I understand that. Cold weather Tua is not a good match, right? So, but I'm trying to really not think about that whatsoever because we just have no idea. And Cleveland had its warmest December last year. Yes, I looked into it. I'm a bit of a psycho, a bit of a freak like that. But I looked into the weather in Cleveland, and last year it was the nicest December they've pretty much ever had, I believe, on average. So maybe that trend continues. Maybe it's a nice December in Cleveland this year, and Devon Achane just goes off. Who knows? Or Tyreek Hill. But again, I'm not trying to take that into account this year. I did in previous best ball years, and I don't think it works out. I don't think it makes sense. So I'm avoiding that rationale and logic and just line of thinking personally. But if it works out in Jaden Reed's here, there we go. I was talking about the Packers. I'll go ahead and take them and kind of force it. Just kind of force myself to make that happen. And then I'm going to need a Minnesota, which is, one of my favorite running backs to draft in the, 150 range is Ty Chandler. I have a massive bag of Ty Chandler. Yeah, one of my highest exposed players. I'm just, and I'm not taking Aaron Jones whatsoever, 0%. Like I double the ADP. It's just easy for me to be taking Chandler. I wouldn't call it over Jones, but yeah, wait and take Chandler. So there you go. Dalton Kincaid's almost there. That's a 10-point swing, like I said, with Andrews. Would have been real nice if it was Mark Andrews that fell to me here, but with all those Houston wide receivers going early, he's the bring back for those wide receiver drafters, for the the Diggs, the Dell drafters, that sort of a thing. But now I mean, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure if I went with Josh Allen, and he probably goes right here then, right? Oh yeah, never mind. Kincaid goes one before. Just won't let him have nice things. That's fine. So probably Jaden Reed, Terry McLaurin. That makes just too much sense for me. Could go Kyle Pitts, sure, but I'm a big believer in Terry McLaurin this year, and that's a huge fall for me. That's a huge fall for me. Look at my bag, 28%, 33%, Terry McLaurin. I like Terry McLaurin a lot this year. Maybe I'll talk about him for a minute. And then Jaden Reed. And yeah, like I was saying about the potential fragility of this wide receiver room, if you could see it that way, I guess I could understand where you're coming from. But now there's no chance you could say that, right? So but yeah, Terry McLaurin, I'm way in on Terry McLaurin with Jaden Daniels there in Washington. For some reason, he just continues to get disrespected. 1,000-yard receiver, I think at least the last 3 years, maybe 4. 1,000-yard receiver. The only thing you want out of Terry McLaurin that we haven't been getting is touchdowns. 4 last year, 5 the year before. I get that. You need more touchdowns. I understand that. But with Jaden Daniels coming in and the way he throws a deep ball, I think it's wheels up for Terry McLaurin. I really do. I think he's in line to have a career season. Yes, I said it. First one, maybe. I don't know anyone else that's as high on Terry McLaurin as me, but I think he's set up for a career season this year. I really, really do. I'm also very high on Jaden Daniels. He was, I think that Jaden Daniels is the rookie QB1 this year in like redraft, not a dynasty conversation. In this year, 2024, 2025 season, I think Jaden Daniels is the rookie quarterback to own over Caleb Williams. What are their ADPs at right now? And there you go. It actually flip-flopped because Caleb Williams was going ahead of Jaden Daniels, and that's flip-flop a little bit. Look at my bags of Jaden Daniels. Pretty good. I need more because I think he's going to rise. I talked about it the other day. He was QB 12 when I talked about him rising, right? Now he's here at QB 11. I see him probably potentially rising. It's going to be tough for him to get over Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. It'll be tough, but I could see him closing that gap. He probably finishes as QB 11, maybe QB 10, maybe. If there's an injury to a quarterback who goes ahead of him, then he rises obviously with that. But he'll close this gap, I think. He'll get into the 90s. And if there's some serious positive buzz in camp, he'll surpass Jordan Love and he'll surpass Dak Prescott. Absolutely. So there's every potential in the world where he ends up as QB8, Jaden Daniels, QB8. There's every potential in the world that's where his kind of closing line value ends up. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm really high. Personally, I'm really high on the Commanders this year in best ball and redraft. Yeah, and redraft as well. But best ball especially. So what do we want to do here? Back end of the draft, 84, 85. Could always go with Dak and Jake Ferguson potentially at the back end of the draft. That's always a possibility. But I'll definitely be going with Jordan Love as long as he's there. Again, I'm going to kind of be forcing this stack. And I might just go with Jaden Daniels. Oh, no, I already have Lamar. Sorry. So I have to make I have to pick. Basically, I have to pick between Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels right here. And it's going to be Jordan Love because I don't want to reach that far for Jaden Daniels. And I want to force myself to get more Jordan Love, like I talked about. So Jordan Love for sure. I'd rather not take another wide receiver. But I guess if Christian Watson falls, yeah, if he falls, I'll take a shot on him. I have barely any exposure to Christian Watson, but I kind of want to bring in Musgrave here, given that I don't have a tight end yet. That's kind of my loose plan as it sits right now. But we'll see. But Jordan Love is definitely on the menu. Running backs would be nice. This is definitely an oddball kind of build that I like. I like it. Makes lots of sense. Could go with Ferguson. I don't love that either, though. Rashee Rice. Brian Thomas would have been a great pick there. Yeah, wide receiver doesn't make a lot of sense. I think I have to go running back. Who do I need exposure to? Zach Moss, I like. Jalen Warren, there's a little bit of correlation there. Don't mind that. I don't want another Raider. So basically it's Zach Moss. I could just go with Ferguson here, actually, but I'm getting pretty fragile at running back, which is not the end of the world. It's just I'm gonna go Zach Moss. Haven't clicked him in a while. Haven't clicked him in this contest at all. And I need something at running back here. Jake Ferguson's a quality click there, but yeah. Begrudging on that one. I don't love that. Should I just scroll the F down on that? No, because I need wide receiver, or I need running back. Kind of had to go running back, really. I don't mind a fragile running back room, but it's getting a little aggressively fragile there. So I'm done at quarterback, obviously, as I always like to do, 2 quarterbacks, hopefully 2 tight ends, but they might end up being 3 here, which is fine. My wide receiver room's in a good spot. I like what I got going on there. I would really like to correlate a little bit more. That's for sure. Definitely want to bring in Dalton Schultz to bring back on my Baltimore bet, my Baltimore stack. Pittsburgh, I could go with Pat Freiermuth as my other tight end. And that might allow me to be okay at 2 tight ends if it's Dalton Schultz and Pat Freiermuth. That might let me be okay. Could just bring in Musgrave. I definitely want my guy, Ty Chandler. So what do we got? We'll see where we're at. What pick are we picking here? 108, 109, and then 32, 33. Ugh. That kind of forces me to reach for Dalton Schultz because there's no other viable Texan to take. I'll be okay with Pat Freiermuth. It'd be just lovely if, for some reason, David Njoku's still there. That would make it easy. Then I could take David Njoku and Pat Freiermuth. That would work out even better. I would take Schultz over Freiermuth if he's there. If he falls to the 132, a little bit of a half round sort of slide, which is certainly possible. Not very likely, if I'm being honest, but it's possible. If Njoku's not there, then I'm taking Dalton Schultz, one of my picks. Done at quarterback. Don't want to go Washington running back. Could go Tajay Spears. Could go Trey Benson. Could go Tony Pollard. A lot of options. We'll see when it gets there. This part of the draft is a little odd, where there's just no wide receivers. But I'm glad I got ahead of the wide receiver kind of cliff with my 5 that I took. Was it in order? No, Lamar Jackson was in there. That's right. But definitely need a running back as well, but there's no one here now unless it's Tajay. I guess I could go with Brock Bowers, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense with Devontae Adams. I just don't think that makes tons of sense. Might end up with Tajay Spears and Dalton Schultz, and I really don't like that at all. Ugh. There goes Njoku. Yeah, Tajay and Schultz. I'm not taking. I'm completely off Javonte Williams personally. He doesn't make sense. I guess Goddard makes sense, but I just don't. 0%. Obviously, you can see I don't really love him. Could go Gus Bus. 0% Gus Bus. Yeah, I gotta get some Gus Edwards. I guess I have the correlation with Cincinnati, but not the end of the world. I'm gonna take Gus Edwards, I guess, and begrudgingly take Dalton Schultz here. I really don't like this, but it's kind of what I got to do. Now my options are Luke Musgrave or Pat Freiermuth for my second tight end, and then I think I'm just going to force myself to be good there. I don't think I like this build. It might grow on me as we go. We'll see. A lot of times that happens, where I don't like my teams around this point of the draft, and then, as it shakes out, it works out and makes sense, but zero correlation to my running back room, which I just said in the previous draft, and I still stand by it. That really doesn't matter to me. I'm actually fine with that. I could bring in a Denver Bronco and it double correlates here, which I probably will do, either a wide receiver or a running back. I definitely would like to get another Green Bay Packer pass catcher, and then Ty Chandler's definitely somebody I'm going to have to bring in and reach on. That's why I don't love this build and what's going on here. I'm reaching a lot right now. I'm kind of forcing myself to reach a little bit, and I don't like that. I really don't like, I'm kind of backing myself into a corner, and I don't. Nobody puts baby in a corner. All right, I don't like that. So it's frustrating, but it is what it is. You gotta be correlated somewhat. If you're gonna make big bets on stacks, right? If you're gonna make big bets on Baltimore, if you're gonna make big bets on Green Bay, then I have to have correlation. That's just how I see it. You kind of have to. I'm saying that Lamar Jackson is going to have a great season, and that Week 17 is going to be a blow-up game. I'm saying Jordan Love's going to have a great season, and it's going to be a big blow-up game in Minnesota. Both indoor games, both on the road. It makes sense. So therefore, if that's what I'm saying, then I have to correlate with them, in my opinion. Call me crazy. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's just the way I see it. maybe if I'm single stacking or making less of a bet or got backed into a corner with a late round stack, Chargers happens all the time. Sometimes with the Saints, things like that, Carolina maybe, and you just have a single stack, no bring back, or a single stack, one bring back, that sort of a thing, then whatever, you don't need to reach whatsoever. You just kind of fall into that. But, 4 picks ahead of ADP, at ADP, we'll see where I get another Baltimore pass catcher. And then, with Green Bay, a couple picks past ADP, reached a little bit on Jordan Love. If I'm making those bets, then you got to follow through. You just have to follow through with it. You got to see it to the end. That's how I see it. This is a weird team though, with the start with Chris Olave and Devontae Adams. Yeah, it's a weird start. Yeah, I'm reaching. Yeah, I'm being different. Yes, I'm trying to get unique. Absolutely. But again, we're in a like less than a week window for this contest. So I want to get some uniqueness. I want to get some different, lineups, some different stacks. You know what I mean? So yeah, you reach on some guys and you get some value. It's a good way to get unique. So Freiermuth, what do I have left for Packers here? Nothing besides Marshawn Lloyd. So I'm not going to take Freiermuth. I am going to take probably Jerome Ford. I'm taking Chandler, so that's fine. Let's just get that out of the way, get that reach out of the way. I think I got to go Musgrave. And then it's either Zach Charbonnet or Jerome Ford. No difference in my exposure. Let's take Charbonnet, a little bit more correlation. Yeah, let's take Charbonnet. Just for a little bit of correlation. Yeah, it's an interesting team. I don't know. It's getting more and more interesting. I don't know what to think about this team, to be honest with you. It's definitely unique, and that's kind of what I was going for. That's kind of what I was going for a little bit. When I'm at the 1-2 turn, at the 12 pick, in a 20 max entry that's going to fill in under a week, I want to do some different things. I definitely want to get unique a little bit. It's not like Best Ball Mania where it runs all through summer and you don't, the ADPs are going to shift. So you're going to end up being unique without even trying a lot of times. When it's a 4-day window, 5-day window to draft, you kind of have to force some uniqueness. That's just how I look at this contest. And I'm just making my bed. That's just, I'm ready to lie in it. I'm making my bed and I'm gonna lie in it. So there you go. Where do I want to go with my wide receivers? Definitely wouldn't mind Roman Wilson. I got to get correlated a little more with Baltimore if I'm making the bet on Baltimore, which I am. I've already done so with the Green Bay Packers, so that's great. If I'm making the bet on Baltimore, I'm going to correlate a little more. So Roman Wilson's definitely on the radar. If I can go, wow, I'd be lucky to get him. If I can get Musgrave and Roman Wilson with these 2 picks at ADP or slightly after, a couple picks after, then that really will make me super happy. But let's talk Eric Gray. We went to kind of talk about him earlier, said I would talk about him, and let's do that. He's getting some steam right now. Theo Greminger, I think is his name, from Player Profiler. Say what you want about Player Profiler. They do have there's a lot of guys I don't like on Player Profiler, but they have some serious talent there. Theo is fantastic. I think he's great. I think he knows his shit. I like, the stuff that he says a lot. Plus he posts a lot of funny memes and stuff like that. So Theo is great. My guy, Bradley Stalder, he's great. Like him a lot. Billy Muzio, nothing wrong with Billy. Sometimes don't agree with his takes all the time. And then the Podfather, we'll just not talk about that. But Theo put out a tweet today where it's, steaming up Eric Gray a little bit. He's getting some run with the ones. Look at my exposure. He's one of, if not my most owned, my most drafted player, and even more so in pre-draft best ball. So my bags are packed to the max with Eric Gray. I am fully stuffed bags with Eric Gray. Borderline all in. But again, 20th round pick in pre-draft best ball, 18th round pick now. We've seen him move up a little bit. He's almost at 214. Still certainly doesn't get drafted all the time. That's for damn sure. But he's moving up. And we're seeing Tyrone Tracy move way back. He was at ADP 180, 170s at one point, Tracy, which was madness. I must have picked him once somewhere. That's strange. I don't know where or why, but either way, now he's fallen below the into the 200s, and we're going to see that continue to fall, and we're going to see Eric Gray get ahead of him, in my opinion. So I like Eric Gray. Biggest reason I like him over Tyrone Tracy, he is a professional running back. He was a running back in college. He was very productive in college. He was drafted as a running back, played running back in the NFL for one season as a rookie so far. Limited production, I get it. But Tyrone Tracy is a converted wide receiver, played running back for one season in college. So I just think that Eric Gray is a professional running back. He knows the position. He knows his assignments. He knows what he's got to do, where he's got to be. He was very well trained by DeMarco Murray in college at Oklahoma. Kind of modeled his game around him, and he's getting some steam. He's getting some run in the preseason and in OTAs. We'll see what he does in preseason when camp opens. But yeah, my bags are absolutely stuffed full with Eric Gray shares. And, I'm going to live by that sword and die by that sword. But Pat, what's happening, man? Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. We're doing, this is the second of 2 poodles. Maybe I'll do another. We'll see. If there's some appetite for the peeps, we'll do another one, because I'm going to max this sucker, and probably today, because it's going to fill by Tuesday. So you gotta get your shares. So this worked out nicely. This is exactly what I wanted. Luke Musgrave, complete my Green Bay stack. Roman Wilson, a little bit of a bring back for my Baltimore stack. So we're getting some green. That's looking good. We're getting some correlation. I'm happy with my rooms. I'm a little fragile at tight end, but I'm going to stop at 2. Dalton Schultz and Luke Musgrave, I'm stopping there. It is what it is. Actually, while you're here, while we're at it, Pat, shout out to Pat, man. The Fantasy Dog Pound's absolutely fucking crushing it right now. Shout out to Pat. You're doing a great job. The Discord's great. I don't pop in there very much, but on the YouTube machine, the YouTube universe, streaming 1-2 times a day, every different contest you can think of. Guests. The episode with Nez the other night, bruh, I had to pause that for the second draft and watch the second half. That was some quality content right there. So shout out to what you're doing. If you're not following Pat, go follow the YouTube channel and on X as well. But anyways, Eric Gray, he's my guy. He's my guy. We'll see what happens. I'm going to live by that sword and die by that sword. I'm making my bed with Eric Gray, and we'll see how it works out for me. But I'd really like Rashad Bateman here to fall. That'd be lovely. Don't particularly see it happening, but you never know. Gonna be 2682. My by far, I'm probably like 96% of my total post draft best ball teams 2682. I just think that's the structure that you need. And there goes Bateman. That sucks, but I just think that that's the structure that you need. And like I always preach, roster construction means everything. So, get your exposures with your 2 tight ends and your 2 quarterbacks. Get your exposures, get your correlation, and then just ride or die, man. That's kind of just how I see it right now. Yeah, man, you're welcome on the show anytime. I'll reach out to you on the Twitterverse and see if you're free. Jump back on the Off the Schneid universe. I'm looking to get Off the Schneid this year in best ball. I'd really like to have a nice bank, as everyone, I'm sure that's why we do this, right? Try to bank a big tournament. But and again, these poodles, I got pretty lucky in the poodles last year. I made the finals in 2 of 3. I think I had two in the either poodle 1 or poodle 2, and then one in the whichever one I didn't make 2. So I've had good luck with these poodles. So hopefully I do well here. But again, I think you got to get a little bit unique in these 1 week long kind of windows. It's not even a week. Honestly, it's not even a week. For this tournament will fill in 4 days, 5 days, 50,000. I was talking about this on a dynasty 32 team dynasty league I'm in with a bunch of Twitter peeps, saying like, you guys don't understand how big best ball is right now. you really don't. It's ridiculous how big and how hot best ball is right now. Again, Pat in the chat there, like, look at the growth his channel's had in the last 3 months. It's insane. And Bindles, there's all these other guys that are, all this content, and a lot of it is fantastic. There is some rough stuff out there that's not fantastic, but don't watch it. Maybe you could lump my channel in with that for all I know. I don't know. But there's just so much good quality content out there right now. And it's just exploding. Best ball is exploding right now. If for some reason you're new to best ball and you're not on Underdog, go into the description. You got a first deposit match bonus. Go ahead and fire that in. If you're not on in best ball or into Underdog, jump in, do some drafts. Every price point you could imagine. Super flex, weekly winners. Personally, I'm not doing weekly winners this year. I'm not doing eliminator this year. I'm kind of just 100% focused on Best Ball Mania. Let's do some picks here, I guess, while we're at it. Jeez. It's getting a little thin. Probably going to be Bucky Irving here. Little ADP slide. And I don't mind that. Correlation with the Chargers, sure. Let's go Bucky Irving. And then I might just bring in Devontae Walker right here because I really want that double stack and just kind of get your guys season as we're looking at this. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just grab Devontae Walker. This might be an Eric Gray team, actually. I think this will be an Eric Gray team. It makes sense with this build. My shit's rough. Some of the best content right now, honestly, bro. It's some of the best content right now, especially with some of the guests you're bringing on. That episode with Nez was actually just quality, good quality, programming. And old Bindles, that guy just looks like an NHL defenseman to me. Doesn't he look like a 6'4" NHL defenseman? Just clappers, right hand clappers, bar down from the blue line. That's all I see when I look at Bindles. Is just you Czech or something, some Czech or Slovakian 6'4" D-man, right-handed, just absolutely blasting clappers from the blue line. That's all I see when I look at Bindles for one reason or another. But anyways, so this is probably going to be an Eric Gray team. Maybe Jalen Hyatt. I don't mind a little Jalen Hyatt, actually. He seems to be putting in the work. Everything I'm seeing on Twitter with Jalen Hyatt, I liked him as a rookie. I thought he'd be drafted higher than the 3rd round, but, he's got that speed. Steve Smith's there working with him and Malik Neighbors. He just seems motivated to get better. Slayton's there still, yes. I just think Hyatt has a higher ceiling potential than Darius Slayton, personally. But we'll see. We'll see. Greg Dortch is a viable option here. And then this is probably going to be an Eric Gray squad. Could go Braylon Allen. Don't mind that. Could go Roshan. That makes actually more sense than anything. So it'll be Roshan first if he's still there. If he falls again like he did in the last room, I'll take Roshan. And then I have Terry McLaurin, right? So no Luke McCaffrey. Then I might go down the list to I don't know who. I've been taking too much AT Perry and just the coach speak. Shout out Coach Speak Index, by the way. If you don't follow Coach Speak Index on Twitter, you should go follow them right now. If you don't follow Coach Speak Index, fantastic follow. A lot of good info there. Take it with a grain of salt, especially right now. It's lying season. It's find storylines season, make up storylines. You know what I mean? So take it with a grain of salt, but it's a great follow. And just the way that Dennis Allen's talking about AT Perry, you can see my bags are packed. I definitely have a lot of AT Perry, but I'm absolutely slowing down, borderline just pulling the plug on that right now. Because my bags are packed. I'm fine. I don't need any more shares of AT Perry at this price until something kind of gives. So really, I'd like to go Roshan and Jalen Hyatt here. That would be a nice little way to go about it, especially with Lamar. Like I was saying, if I'm trying to do bringbacks with my big bet on my Baltimore stack here, then I want wide receivers, not running backs, right? So in this case, it's got to be kind of Jalen Hyatt, and it'd be great if Roshan was still there. And he is. That's lovely. Nice little drop. There we go. I like that. So again, like halfway through, it happens all the time. Halfway through these streams, I'm like, man, I kind of hate this team. Man, I don't love this team. I don't like the way it's coming together. And then, as it goes, you piece it together, you figure it out, and it kind of just works out. I actually kind of like this team now, especially the uniqueness. Again, with this short window tournament, you got to force a little bit of uniqueness. And I think I got it here. Again, starts with Chris Olave, Devontae Adams at that game, week 17 game stack there. Rare. Not a lot of guys are going to be doing that. It's a reach, sure, but it's really not that big of a deal. Half a round, max. Unique game stack. And then you kind of build out some other, again, stacks. You just build out Green Bay and Baltimore. Nothing about that started in round 1 or 2, right? So, and you can go a few different ways. So I went all in on Green Bay a little bit, all in on Baltimore a little bit. And then I have bringbacks in every week of the playoffs. So theoretically, if Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love have very good quality seasons, that's what I'm betting on. And if they do, I want bringbacks in every week leading up to week 17, where all the money's at. So let's give it a whirl. But there we go. That's it for today, I think. Let's go like that. That's it for today, I think. Two drafts. We got some good content in there. Hopefully everybody got something out of it. Thank you, everybody, for popping in the chat. Flatulent Fantasy, Putt Daddy, as always. Pat from the Dog Pound, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. We'll be back next week. By next week, I mean this week. Probably, I don't know, maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So hit that like button, hit that notification bell. Sometimes it's a little erratic with when I can go live, and with a lot of things in my life going on, it's a little difficult sometimes. So go ahead, hit that notification bell so you know when I'm going live, and you can jump in, draft with me, ask questions, get all the content that I deliver. Whether hopefully you get value from it. Obviously, if you're here, you do get some value from it. But let's get out of here. I'm going to be in these Poodle streets all day and night a little bit, so I'm going to keep drafting. So if you're drafting Poodles, you'll see me in there. But like I always say every single time on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. And hopefully tonight we were right. Today we were right. Happy Sunday Fun Day. We'll see you this week. We'll see you Tuesday, Wednesday,